Neth originally moved to Nashville to be a songwriter, but wound up writing contracts and other legal documents instead, which he joked made him one of the highest paid writers in Music City. I see how rude of a joke. I'm so sorry, Neth. For the last few years, Neth has been making the rounds in the nonfiction storytelling circuit, making others laugh at inappropriate subject matter. A personal essay of his youth has been published in When the Shadow Sees the Sun, in which all proceeds go towards suicide prevention and survivor counseling. You can see him as, Michigan the Postman and Neil Simon's Fools at Towns Theater in Brentwood on the weekends of October 20th, 27th, and November 3rd. Please welcome Neth Williams.
Yes, I'm going to be the first one cheating. Something I would love to have known when I was younger, when people talk about purpose and what you're supposed to do in life, is that there is a disconnect between your purpose and your career. They do not have to be the same, and that is okay. Too many kids, we've all known people. Someone will say, oh, Mary loves animals, she's going to be a veterinarian. Billy loves to argue, he's going to be a lawyer. And it's just not always the case. You cannot be coached from that into birth. And we've all been told, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Not an option, it's just not a reality. We've got more mundane jobs than we have excellent jobs. And again, nothing wrong with that. And now that everyone is looking at me like the wet blanket of thorns I'm frequently considered, floating around busting bubbles, I actually have good news. Your day job does not have to be your life mission. Now, contrary to what MBAs who destroyed our once thriving economy would tell you, education is no substitute for experience. Life is the best teacher, and it will expose you to all kinds of things that you just are not going to get, and to things that you need. Life is very insistent on that. It will place you in areas that you just have to learn to keep going. And this is why former addicts become the best addiction counselors and trauma survivors become the best therapists. Actually being there gives you what you cannot get from a pamphlet or a book. And one of the meanest things I think life can do to someone is give them an aptitude that does not match their interests. Personally, I love to sing, but I've got the voice of a South Park character. I sing Bats Crashing the Walls. It's just not pretty. I am not one of these multi-talented artists that came up before me. I like to draw, but I can't even so much as draw a smiley face without it looking like someone stifling a sneeze while having a stroke. Not my aptitude. But I acknowledge this, and that spares me a lot of humiliation and rejection. Two things that life will give you enough of, especially as an artist. As a writer, I've had stories be rejected. As an actor, you go to auditions, you don't necessarily get the role every time. So there's enough of that without going out of your way chasing something
To get more.
that you're not going to get. Trim down on the rejection. And even as a writer, I've learned that one of my strengths is absolutely not fiction writing. I am great at creating excuses. I am great at creating alternate truths that I've had to use for clients in defense situations. But full out bullshitting a story, coming up with fiction from scratch, not for me. But accepting that with my life experiences and my ability to write, I do great with nonfiction, and that's why I'm making the storytelling rounds. By paying attention to the things that have happened around me, I learned this is absolutely fine. You have to learn the lessons from life. It will not let you move on without learning that previous lesson. It's very insistent. Life does not participate in No Child Left Behind. It has a lesson for you. You've got to go. But the good news, you don't have to learn from your own mistakes if there's people around you making them, and you learn from those. We all know someone who is a walking warning sign. Someone who just cannot get one single thing right. Learn from that, and that helps. That way you don't have to make the cluster the mistake that will follow you for life. Just let that be good enough. In connecting learning from life with the aptitudes, it's also a great coping mechanism for me in dealing with what I grew up around. I was born into poverty, dysfunctional family, grew up around just drug addiction, spousal abuse issues, and I was bullied so much to the point by the time I was 12, I attempted to kill myself. No biggie. That was all training to me. And now I've been able to move forward and use that to help make the world a better place. The writing led to comedy events, which a national comedian who's now out in LA, in a podcast around the time of Robin Williams' suicide, approached me and interviewed me on the subject of depression and suicide. She was wanting to put together a podcast specific for comedians and depression because they seem to walk hand in hand. And shortly after that, when a local author, Logan Masterson, committed suicide, his publisher put together an anthology of artists surviving depression because it is very prevalent in our community. And that got to be one of my first submissions to be published in a book where, as in my intro said, all proceeds go to suicide prevention and counseling of the survivors because they're the ones standing left in the ruins of the temple, often without the support if it's a spouse, just wondering, what could I have done? And unfortunately, a lot of times there's nothing. In attending these storytelling events, I've been able to meet with people like Kristen, who just earlier this week interviewed me regarding the subject of coming out on National Coming Out Day, where I get to take my experiences from being gay and bullied for that, and just in hopes of helping other young gays be able to come to grips and move on with life. One of the other great things about these storytelling events, writers who I've admired for years have approached me about being so open with the things that I discuss and let me know that there were personal essays they were writing and debating on how much to divulge, and decided to just go in it to win it, just let it all out, knowing that that's okay because that's what speaks to people, is those personal details. And to me, nothing feels better than hearing, because of you, I'm doing this, or I did this, or I didn't let that stop me. And I got to do that all despite the day job.